Hello, my friends. Welcome to this new episode. I hope you are all doing well. Today I want to touch on one topic that is related to the brain and the memory. So here, what we always talk about the memory. Sometimes you might say, like me, it happened to me as well. That's okay. I'm losing my memory because you have a discussion with someone, and a minute later you don't remember their name or things like that. So we will realize that most of the time it's not really about the memory of itself, but it's really about the lack of focus. So let's jump into it. First of all, what is memory? So for many years, neuroscience has taught us that memory is stored in our brain. But there are so many different events that happen in life that kind of make us question that assumption that the memory is really in the brain. And so, for example, you might have audium that are able to speak with spiritual being after they are dead, or maybe some of the people undergoing surgery, brain surgery, open brain surgery, but I remember they're able to tell the surgeon, for example, after the surgery, everything that's happened during the surgery. Those are very strange events that happen, and we know there are many of them. And so that makes us really question about what is the memory? Is the memory really something physical that is stored in our brain? And with all these different experiences, that is something that we need to question. So I will give you my perspective. So as I already mentioned, I think that based on what we discussed, the universe is regulated by energy, frequency, and vibration. And related to the memory, what I think is that the information that we and our thought that we receive already exist in the universal consciousness. And usually when we receive the information, we receive it as a form of a thought or as a form of a wave. And that waves in general will encounter the different the neuronal network of our brain. And that neuronal network behave as a resonator or like as an antenna. So the information will create a vibration of the antenna. If the network or if the vibrational signature of that information already exists, it will create a vibration of that antenna, making the response even stronger, making the resonance even stronger. So that's how we learn. When we learn the information, we repeat the information again and again. That's what is happening. It's the amplification of the vibrational mode of the vibration of our neuronal network that corresponds to a specific information. So, and I think now, how about the new information that we receive? So generally, the new information that we receive will create or generate new neurons, new neuronal network. And this neuronal network will be a signature that corresponds to that specific information that we just received. And it will be stored in the, not stored in the brain, but it's like a receiver. So every time we need that information, our brain will be calibrated to receive that information based on the vibrational frequency corresponding to that information. It's the same thing as we learn. Of course, over time, you have diseases like Alzheimer, you have diseases like dementia, some of the neurons of our brain start to die or degenerate. And in that case, you don't have enough, maybe not enough neuron to create a new vibrational field in your neuronal network. And in that case, some of the information also that exists already, or vibrational signature that already exists based on the neuron that are degenerating, that information will vanish. But it doesn't mean that information is vanished from our brain, but the information always still exists in the universal consciousness. And what I will say, the way to retrieve the information is to really create a new network corresponding to that information. And so in case of dementia, I think that's, or maybe Alzheimer, I don't know what could be the solution, but I think that's one of the things that we could do is to be able to free some of the networks or the neuronal network that we sometimes use for things that are not necessary. I will take, for example, some of our habits, some strong habits, some strong beliefs that we have are using our neuronal network, are use some of the neurons unnecessarily because we have the attachment over our lifetime. We kind of strengthen that attachment, we strengthen that information in the neuronal network, and that makes those neuronal networks more rigid, so they can't really be assigned to different tasks or assigned to different information. So I think that one of the ways to really do it is to be release our attachment to some of those things of our lifetime, our attachment to things that we think that we strongly believe in, but sometimes they might not be very relevant as we grow. I could say, for example, anger, for example, or different things, negative things that we all have. And in that case, the network that was really used to those kind of, to store that kind of behavior or kind of information could be assigned to different tasks or different information. And I will say, going back to the discussion that I mentioned earlier, most of the time also when we say that we are losing our memory or we don't remember things, just a few minutes somebody tell you the name and then a few minutes you don't remember. It happened to me, and I think when I realized that, I really started to focus a little bit, be in the moment. Every time you have a discussion, a conversation with someone, try to really pay attention, to listen to what the person is doing. If you're having a task, sometimes multitasking is not a good thing for the memory. You need to assign or be present or really pay attention to what you are doing or the task that you are doing. That's how you remember. That's how you really build the network, vibrational network that corresponds to the information that you are learning. And so when you are not focused, it's like you're tuning your guitar or your instrument. If you are not, the instrument is not tuned to that specific frequency, it won't be able to produce the right sound that is good to the ear. So we need to really pay attention. And every time you pay attention to the task that you are doing, you are really tuning the frequency of your neuronal network to match the information that is coming from whatever activity that you're doing. To really learning, you are really receiving that information. So I think next time when you think that your brain is kind of, you think that your memory is kind of drifting a little bit, maybe pay more attention to what you are doing, pay more attention to the conversation, live more in the present, and I think that's where you will be able to really improve your memory, you'll be able to improve your capability that you have, you retain the information. I think this is very powerful thing that it's a very good thing that our memory is not stored in our brain, because once the brain is damaged, it's very difficult to recover the information. Luckily, the information is stored outside of our brain, it's stored in the universal consciousness, and so we can retrieve it. It just takes us the willing, and it takes us the practice and the learning to really try to tune our neuronal network to be able to access that information. And we can see, for example, different people, even kids, that are able to remember things that's from their past life. And I think that will also confirm that the information about our life or the memories, the life experience that we have, is not really stored in our brain. It's really stored in the universal consciousness. So it all exists already. And every time you are learning new information, that information already exists in the universal consciousness, and it's just submitted to your brain, it's just submitted to the vibrational network of your brain to be able to capture that information and release that information, mostly in the form of emotion. So with that, that's what I wanted to share with you today regarding the relationship between the brain and the memory, and that gives us also hope that maybe in some of the case of diseases such as Alzheimer or dementia, the better we can understand really what is happening, the better we can maybe train people who are undergoing this type of diseases to be able to gain more information. As I mentioned, it might take the willing to kind of letting go some of our attachment or some of the information that is stored in our brain, and using the capability of our neuronal network. By letting go this information, some of the information, we can really free some neurons and reassign this neuron to some new information that we want to retain. So with that, I hope you stay safe, and until next time. Bye-bye. Thank you.